My name is Adrian Mercer. I'm 29 years old, born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, a city where old buildings hold heat badly. Old money hides its sins well, and every street at night can feel like it's carrying a secret just behind your shoulder. This is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, she said, "One night won't change anything." She was wrong. It started in November, on a night when the rain had turned the city into glass. From the 22nd floor of Halbrecht and Rowe, the financial consulting firm where I worked, Boston looked like a blurred constellation. Red brake lights sliding through wet streets, office towers glowing like lanterns over the river, the whole city pretending it was still awake for something meaningful. Inside, only a few of us remained. The cleaning crew moved quietly through the halls. Printers hummed. Somewhere far off, a phone rang and then stopped, as if even it had given up. I was at my desk with my tie loosened, my sleeves rolled, trying to fix a forecasting report that wasn't really broken. My boss, Daniel Halbrecht, had a talent for calling people back after hours just to remind them their lives belonged to him. He was the kind of man who smiled as if kindness were a tax-deductible strategy. "Still here?" a voice said behind me. I turned, and there she was, Elena Cross. She worked in legal, 27, sharp-eyed, composed, with dark hair that fell over one shoulder like it had been arranged by a painter. She wasn't the loudest person in any room, which somehow made people notice her more. Men at the firm either wanted her or were intimidated by her. Women watched her carefully, not because she was cruel, but because she seemed impossible to read. She carried herself like someone who had learned early that softness invited damage. I'd known her 8 months, long enough to fall into the dangerous habit of looking for her in meetings, long enough to know she never flirted carelessly, long enough to understand that whatever lived behind her eyes was heavier than she let anyone see. "Trying to save the company?" she asked. "Trying to save myself from Daniel's 6 a.m. email." That made her smile, faint but real. A losing battle. She stepped closer to my desk, glancing at the spreadsheets on my screen. Her perfume was subtle, clean, warm, a little smoky. Rain still clung to the shoulders of her charcoal coat. "You're bleeding loyalty for people who wouldn't remember your birthday," she said. I leaned back in my chair. That sounded personal. It was meant to. For a second, something passed between us. Not flirtation exactly. Something quieter. More dangerous. Recognition. Earlier that week, I'd heard whispers that her family was a mess. Something about her father's illness, her younger brother getting into debt again, her mother pretending everything was normal as long as the curtains were ironed and the neighbors stayed impressed. Office gossip always arrived half-dressed and ugly, so I ignored most of it. But that night, looking at Elena, I could tell something in her was stretched thin. "You okay?" I asked. She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "No, but I'm beautifully dressed, so people assume I am." I smiled despite myself. That's usually how Boston works. She looked at me for a moment longer than necessary. "Come downstairs with me." I frowned. "Why?" "Because I don't want to be alone right now." There are moments in life that don't announce themselves. No thunder, no music, just a door inside your chest clicking open. I grabbed my coat. We left the office together and stepped into cold rain that misted more than poured. The city smelled like wet pavement, traffic, and distant salt from the harbor. We walked without any clear destination, shoulders nearly touching, our reflections following us in broken silver on the sidewalk. She didn't speak for a while, and I didn't force it. Some silences are trust wearing another face. Eventually, she led me into a small bar tucked beneath a brownstone near Beacon Hill. Low light, dark wood, jazz playing so softly it sounded like memory. The kind of place where no one asked questions because everyone was already avoiding their own. We took a corner booth. She ordered whiskey. I ordered the same. For a while we talked the way people do when they're standing too close to honesty to pretend anymore. Work first, Daniel's manipulations, the suffocating culture at the firm, the performance of ambition, then family. My father used to tell people I'd marry well, she said, staring into her glass. As if that was my final form. As if all this, she gestured vaguely, meaning her career, her mind, her entire life, was just packaging. And did you? Did I what? Marry well. That drew a sharper laugh, bitter around the edges. I didn't marry at all. Came close once. He loved me in the way some men love beautiful things. Possessively, nervously. like I might stop belonging to him if I developed any dimensions he hadn't approved. I watched her carefully. What happened? I developed dimensions. I smiled, but something in my chest ached. And you? She asked. What made you this cautious? I looked down at my drink. My mother spent 15 years loving a man who kept promising he'd become easier to survive. He never did. I think I grew up believing love was mostly endurance with good lighting. Her eyes softened. That's a terrible thing to learn young, she said. Yeah, and yet you still seem capable of tenderness. That's inconvenient. I looked at her then, really looked. The shadows under her eyes, the tension in her jaw, the loneliness she hid so elegantly it almost looked like control. Maybe I'm tired, I said. Maybe tenderness is just what leaks out when people are tired. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then her phone lit up on the table. She glanced at it, and something in her face changed. Not fear exactly, more like resignation. She declined the call. Everything okay? I asked again. No, she said. My brother needs money I don't have. My mother needs reassurance I don't believe. My father needs the version of me that stopped existing years ago. And tomorrow I have to sit across from Daniel while he explains integrity to people he underpays. There was a tremor in her voice now, subtle but real. I reached across the table before I could stop myself and touched her hand. She went still. The room seemed to narrow around us. The jazz, the rain against the windows, the bartender polishing glasses at the other end of the counter. All of it faded. Her hand turned beneath mine, slowly, until our fingers met. Elena, I said, though I didn't know what I meant to do with her name. She looked at me with an expression I still don't have a precise word for. Hunger, maybe. Loneliness. Recognition. Grief. Hope's darker twin. Then, very quietly, she said, one night won't change anything. It should have sounded like a warning. Instead, it sounded like permission. Back at her apartment, the city disappeared behind rain-streaked windows and soft amber light. We stood in her kitchen for a moment, drenched in silence, our coats abandoned on chairs, the distance between us alive and unbearable. When she kissed me, it wasn't reckless. It was the opposite. It was the kiss of two people who had spent months holding back entire storms. And when she pulled away, breath uneven, forehead resting against mine, she whispered, "Please don't make this mean more than it should." But even then, with her hands on my face and the whole night opening beneath us, I knew she was wrong. Because some nights don't pass. Some nights divide your life into before and after. The strange thing about certain nights is how quietly they end. No explosions, no declarations, just morning light slipping through the blinds like it's checking to see if anything irreversible happened. I woke before Elena did. Her apartment was on the 12th floor of an older building overlooking the Charles River. The city outside was pale and fogged with early winter light. Traffic hummed below like distant waves. For a moment, I just watched her sleep. She looked different without the armor she wore at work. Softer, younger somehow. One arm tucked under the pillow, dark hair spilling across the white sheets, her breathing slow and even. The night before replayed in fragments inside my head. Her laugh in the bar, the rain on the windows, the way she'd held my shirt as if letting go would send her falling somewhere deeper than sleep. And yet something about the morning felt fragile, like a glass placed too close to the edge of a table. I slipped quietly out of bed and walked into the kitchen. The apartment was elegant, but not flashy. Books stacked on shelves, framed photographs along the hallway, a piano near the window that looked like it hadn't been played in a long time. While I was making coffee, I noticed a photo on the counter. Elena standing beside an older man in a hospital gown. Her father. His face was thin but proud, one hand resting on her shoulder like he still believed he was protecting her. A knot tightened in my chest. Most people leave before I wake up. Her voice came from behind me. I turned. She stood in the doorway wrapped in a loose gray sweater, hair messy, eyes still heavy with sleep. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked completely unguarded. I didn't want to disappear, I said. She leaned against the doorframe, watching me carefully. That's dangerous behavior, she replied. Stay. Caring. I handed her a cup of coffee. She took it, but her fingers lingered around mine for a second longer than necessary. Adrian, she said softly, about last night. I waited. Her eyes moved toward the window, avoiding mine. It was exactly what I needed, she said slowly. But it can't become complicated. There it was again. That quiet wall she kept rebuilding. Complicated usually means real, I said. She gave a small, tired smile. Real is expensive. Before I could answer, her phone vibrated on the counter. She glanced at the screen and went still. Then she answered. Yes, she said, her voice suddenly sharp with alertness. I couldn't hear the other side, but whatever they said made the color drain from her face. I told you I'm working on it, she said quietly. No, you can't do that. Please don't. A pause. Her shoulders tensed. I'll fix it, she said. Just give me a little more time. She ended the call and stared at the dark screen. Your brother? I asked. She nodded. He borrowed money from people who don't appreciate delays. How much? Enough to ruin someone. I leaned against the counter. Why didn't you tell me? Her eyes flashed. Because it's not your problem. But something about the way she said it sounded more like fear than pride. That morning we left the apartment together, walking into the cold Boston air as if nothing had changed. But everything had. At the office, we returned to our normal roles, colleagues exchanging professional smiles across conference tables. If anyone noticed the subtle electricity between us, they didn't say. But Daniel Halbrecht noticed everything. Around noon, his assistant appeared at my desk. Mr. Halbrecht wants to see you. His office sat at the corner of the floor, surrounded by glass walls that made privacy look like an illusion. He gestured for me to sit. Daniel Halbrecht was a tall man in his 50s with silver hair and the unsettling calm of someone who believed consequences were for other people. You're doing excellent work, Adrian, he said, steepling his fingers. Compliments from Daniel always meant a trap was being assembled. Thank you. He studied me for a moment. Then he said casually, you and Elena Cross seem to be getting along well. My stomach tightened. We work together. He smiled. Yes, I'm sure that's all. Silence hung in the room like smoke. Then he leaned forward slightly. You see, Elena is very valuable to this firm. Brilliant legal mind. Tremendous potential. He paused. But she has vulnerabilities. I didn't respond. She's been requesting advances on her salary, he continued. Family issues. Debts that aren't entirely hers. My pulse began to pound. What does that have to do with me? I asked carefully. Daniel's smile widened. Everything, potentially. He slid a file across the desk toward me. Inside were financial projections from a client account, numbers that didn't quite add up. They want the report to look optimistic, he said lightly. Investors prefer optimism. You want me to falsify it? I want you to adjust the presentation of risk. That's fraud. He shrugged. It's business. I closed the file slowly. No. For the first time, Daniel's expression hardened. That's disappointing, he said. Then he leaned back in his chair. You know, he added thoughtfully, if Elena's brother doesn't repay his creditors soon, things could become unpleasant for her. A cold wave moved through my chest. You're threatening her. I'm describing reality. The room felt suddenly smaller. Daniel watched me the way a chess player studies a piece before deciding whether to sacrifice it. You could solve two problems at once, he said softly. My hands curled into fists. You're asking me to betray my career, I said. He tilted his head. No, I'm offering you the opportunity to protect someone you care about. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Outside his glass walls, the office moved normally. Phones ringing, keyboards tapping, people laughing. But inside that room, the future was quietly shifting. And the worst part? Part of me already knew what choice I was going to make. Because Elena was wrong about something. That night hadn't changed nothing. It had changed everything. I walked out of Daniel Halbrecht's office with the file in my hands and a storm in my head. The city outside the windows looked the same as always. Cars moving, people talking, life pretending it was ordinary. But for me, everything had tilted slightly out of place. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Daniel's voice. You could solve two problems at once. By morning, I had made a decision, but not the one he expected. Instead of altering the report, I spent the next 3 hours doing something Daniel had never considered possible. I documented everything. Emails, financial records, internal messages, the real numbers behind the account. Years of quiet manipulation hiding beneath polished spreadsheets. And then I walked into Elena's office. She looked up from her desk, surprised. You look like someone who hasn't slept, she said. Because I haven't. I closed the door behind me and placed the file on her desk. She opened it slowly. As she read, the color drained from her face. Adrian, what is this? Proof. Of what? Everything Daniel's been doing. Her eyes lifted to mine, filled with alarm. Why would you bring this to me? Because he's using your brother's debt to pressure me into helping him. The silence that followed was heavy. You should walk away from this, she said quietly. People like Daniel don't lose. Maybe, I said, but I'm not letting him own us. For a long moment, she stared at the papers. Then she exhaled slowly, like someone stepping off a cliff. I know someone at the Federal Regulatory Office, she said. 3 weeks later, Halbrecht and Rowe became the subject of a very public investigation. Daniel resigned before charges were announced. The firm fractured overnight. And Elena left the company. So did I. A month later, we met again on the same rainy street where everything had started. Boston looked the same as always. Wet pavement, glowing windows, the quiet hum of a city carrying 1,000 untold stories. She stood beside me, hands in the pockets of her coat. My brother's debt is being handled, she said softly. Legally this time. That's good. We walked for a while without speaking. Then she stopped and looked at me. You remember what I said that night? She asked. One night won't change anything. She nodded slowly. I was wrong. I smiled. Yeah, I said. Because sometimes a single night does something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. It changes the direction of your life. And if you're lucky, it changes it with someone walking beside you.